how to grow up with Asian parents.
That's its own struggle.
Talking back in Asian culture is like the fastest way to get hit with a rice paddle. Day that you met my parents, like they were going to judge everything about you. Cultural superstitions.
She would give food to the spirits. They don't care about social life.
Yeah.
Not-
Woo! All right. This is our very first ever podcast style, I guess.
Our low budget podcast.
Low budget. Very low budget.
We got mics on deck.
We're excited today because today we wanted to talk about, so I guess one of our videos that's been doing pretty well on our channel is coming out to our Asian parents. But we're excited today because we kind of put some topics together just to talk about how to grow up with Asian parents. And I think like a lot of, the viewers definitely don't know that you and I come from, even though we are both Asian, we come up from such different backgrounds of just growing up from, not just backgrounds, but like socioeconomic status and areas of where we grew up.
Yeah, translates to me to I'm poor and you grew up rich.
Not at all. I wouldn't say, I mean, your words, not mine.
It's the truth.
I think this is a good way just for us to get intimate with each other too. Failed to mention this earlier too, but the reason why we wanted to kind of talk about how to deal with growing up with Asian parents is that it's actually Filipino American History Month. But here we are, celebrating Filipino American History Month. Did you know it was Filipino American History Month?
No, I'm not Filipino.
When's Laos American History Month?
They don't have one. There's not enough Laos people to have a month for it, let alone a day.
Yeah. I mean, before I even met you, I had never met another Laos person. That's so embarrassing to say because I feel like I should.
We're a very small population.
Yeah. I just feel like Filipinos just dominate.
They're
Why
everywhere.
do I feel like they're everywhere? Well, I feel like they're
They're
everywhere.
like Mexicans.
They are. They're the Mexicans of Asia. Mm-hmm. And especially in California. Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry, we're getting off topic. We can't really start this podcast in any other way but first speak about cultural expectations and just what it's like to grow up as
an Asian American.
As an Asian American.
And not just Asian American, a first generation Asian American.
Exactly.
Because that's its own struggle.
Yeah. It's not like we're like first, second, third generation or second, third, fourth generation, but we're literally the firstborn from immigrant parents. Mm-hmm. I grew up with a lot of white people, white Americans, which, I love white people, but I was always like the odd person out. I was definitely the minority. Our culture, Filipino culture, was just so different to like all my friends. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I don't know about you, but I couldn't have sleepovers. I couldn't stay out past like 8 or 9 p.m. I, had to eat dinner with my family every single night. Mm-hmm. I just had so many things that were so different from my friends and like they couldn't understand. Or they would just be like, wow, your parents are so strict. But to me, I thought it was just normal.
Yeah.
Was that similar to you too? Did you feel like you had the same type of cultural?
In a way, but I was really aware that my mom wasn't as strict as other Asian parents. Yeah. She was strict in certain things, but for having curfews, I was a really responsible kid as well. Yeah. So I think she just trusted me. The only thing that she was very strict about was no sleepovers. Because the number one thing that Asian parents are afraid of is your kid being raped.
Yeah.
Or because
God damn.
It's
bring a hard R. I wasn't even expecting you to say. I literally thought you were just gonna be like, don't get pregnant.
No, but
turn into rape. Ooh,
that's
baby.
one thing that we're fortunate from. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but my mom, she explained that as she grew up with other people her age and growing up, there's a lot of sick Asian men who would take advantage of family members, and that's like a stereotype that a lot of people hear, but it's a true one because I heard from multiple family members that they would get taken advantage of from their family members. So she was deeply afraid that, a family member would touch me or I would get friends or from like a family member.
Yeah. And that makes sense not to like make sure that you're not going out or to keep you sheltered, I guess, in that sense. Yeah. And it seems like it's not even just Asians. Any culture, there's always a weirdo in the family, right? Yeah. And parents are always, good parents should try to protect their kids from those weirdos in the family. So
would your parents let you sleep with your cousins? Like do sleepovers?
Yeah, sometimes we did. I had a couple.
I think that was just that's like the only thing that my mom was very strict about.
Really?
Yeah, she just
Family
wouldn't let
sleepovers.
me. Even family sleepovers, she would never let me have. My brothers could
makes-
do it,
yeah.
but I couldn't do it.
'Cause you're a girl.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she trusted the people. She trusted her family, but I don't know. She just had this deep fear that someone would touch me.
Yeah. No, same. Honestly, my parents were, and I think it's good to kind of disclaim this too, because she's a family of 3, 2 brothers. I'm a family of 3, 2 brothers, but she's the oldest and I'm the middle child.
Yeah.
So we have the same dynamics in the sense that we're the only girl in the family.
Yeah.
So I think our parents were definitely like strict. I think we had they had a higher sense of, I don't know, security for us, I guess.
Which was weird for me because I am the oldest. So I was always responsible for my brothers. They could go sleep over and do whatever they want, but I couldn't.
Because
even
they
though
can't
they're
get
young,
pregnant.
because they can't get pregnant.
Yeah. I kind of get it though. If we had kids too, I would do
But
the
she
same
would let
thing.
me go out as late as I want. Like, it was fine. It was normal.
So that's kind of nice though, because I imagine that would help you. You're thankful that your mom lets you go out, but you have to come home by a certain time.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I feel like that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And honestly, like, it wasn't like I was a slutty kid or anything. I was really nerdy. I was busted. So
God damn.
when your kid is really nerdy, they don't care.
They're like,
so
oh,
much.
you good.
Yeah. Like, I didn't have big tits or anything.
That's the facts. Oh my goodness. I think another thing too that a lot of my white friends would get shook about, and this is just my perspective and like just kind of how I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, was I would see a lot of my friends just talk back. Like, talking back in Asian culture is like the fastest way to get hit with a rice paddle. You will like get grounded, get your phone taken away, get your computer taken away.
Yeah.
Like, I would say like that's how strict my parents were in that sense. Like, no talking back. We had to sit at the table every single night, like for dinner. I guess like my white friends would say that my parents were so strict in that sense because I would get grounded.
Yeah.
None of my friends ever, like I had so many friends tell me that they've never been grounded in their life. And I'm like, dude, you know how many times I got my phone taken away, my keyboard taken away? So many things that were taken from me because I misbehaved or I talked back or I had a bad attitude. That's another thing too. Having a bad attitude at a family party, oh my God, I'll get my ass whooped. Like straight up, like my parents would literally be like, oh, you better talk to every single aunt, every single uncle, kiss them on the cheek, both sides.
That is straight fat. That's
That is
another
an Asian thing
that my mom was very, very strict on. Like, she would let me go out, do whatever I want. I would watch TV till 1 a.m. I would play video games all the time. But there's one thing that my mom was really stern with us, is having manners and being very respectful to your elders. And that's something that you don't even see anymore with the new generation of Asians.
Right.
But my mom was really, really strict at that. If you didn't smile at your aunt or your uncle, someone that you don't even know in the family party, Michelle, come over here and say hi to your uncle or your aunt that used to take care of you when you're little.
Yeah.
And you are expected to go up to the aunt and pretend that you remember every little thing, every diaper they changed for you, every milk they fed you, and just pretend and put a smile on your face and be respectful. And to, I don't know,
kiss her ass.
Yeah, kiss her
Literally.
ass.
It's
all about kissing ass when you're an Asian.
Yeah, and respecting your elders.
Yeah.
That's like number one, right? And I 100% agree with you in that sentiment that it doesn't, I mean, even to this day, like when my parents are introducing me to like titos or titas, they know that they get excited to introduce me because they know I know how to put on a face.
Yeah.
You know, and like be as respectful as possible, because to me, when your parents are introducing you to a family friend or someone, like you are an extension of them. So it's like so important.
Exactly.
It's so important to have put on a good face, right? Perfect example too. Michelle and I actually went to a wedding a couple months ago for one of my best friends in high school. And growing up, I'm just going to use like a separate name. Growing up, I always called her Mrs. Let's just say Mrs. Z. Every single day I would call her that. And look, I'm like 13 years removed from high school now. Oh my God. And whenever I see her, I still call her Mrs. Z. And like, I have such a hard time calling other people or other elders by their first name. But you know, like in American culture, that's super normal to like say like, oh, hi, I'm Jillian, or I'm this, I'm that, like call me this, like please don't call me Mr. or Mrs. Like you make me feel so old. In Asian culture, it's you're almost ingrained to call your elders their respected title. You know, and do you feel that was the same way too, or
no?
You called your friends' parents by their first name?
Yeah, I would call them by their first
Really?
names. Yeah, well, my family is different from yours. We're less formalized, so I would call them by their first name. But of course, like if it was an aunt, I would say like auntie.
Yeah.
or uncle.
Okay, so
but
the
I
same-
would never call anyone Miss or Mrs.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Do you think all this pressure and expectations that your parents give you to be fake and be nice to everyone that you don't know is too much?
That's a great question. I also want to caveat that I don't want to say that I'm being fake, but I guess I'm just being like maybe overly nice and overly respectful.
Yeah.
Some people might see that as being fake. I don't think it's too much. I kind of get it because I'm going to put that same pressure on our kids if we have kids.
Right.
Of like, I don't care if this is your homeless aunt or whatever, you know, like you're going to give them the same respect because you're not going to embarrass me.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to with Asians. It's like, you're not going to embarrass me.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're going to respect everyone that I introduce you to.
It's an embarrassment if your kid is just walking to the other room and just sitting down, not coming out, and not saying hi.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's so true.
Just that,
So
and
glad you brought that up.
it's a disservice to the kid if you're not teaching them manners, because
Right.
that goes along with them throughout their lives. If they don't know how to come up to, I don't know, someone that they're trying to sell something to, or people that you're going to work for, I don't know, like meeting new friends, like it's going to be hard for them to go through life if they don't know those social skills. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. And I think now, especially that we're growing up, it's like being on your phone is a whole other like I mean, I think every culture is kind of like that.
Asian parents, for them, it's like they don't want to be embarrassed and they want their kids to have a good reflection on them. But to dig deeper into it, for me, it would be a huge disservice to the kid.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be learning anything, and they're not going to be liked.
Yeah.
And it's not like they have to be liked by everybody, but you have to have those social skills with other people.
Yeah, I think it's such an important skill that you learn as a kid that translates into your career, into growing up, into dating, having relationships with other people.
Because no one likes a brat.
Yeah, exactly. It's not all about you.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I think another thing that we haven't touched on, which I think is separates us before we move on to the next topic, is school. Like, school and cultural expectations. I think if you survey all of Americans and you think of the most stereotypical thing about Asians, what is it? Everyone's gonna be like,
Lawyer and doctor.
oh yeah, that too. That like comes with that, but it's like academics is like number one. Like you go to any school, like all the top students are like Korean, Chinese, Japanese, whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely not art. Vietnamese too. Vietnamese. I had a lot of people I went to school with. My parents always told me like, you can't go anywhere without finishing your homework. You can't go anywhere. You're grounded if you don't finish your homework. You're grounded if you get a C. You're grounded if you get lower than, you know, like a B+ or something like that. Luckily they weren't like too crazy strict about like getting straight A's. And I think I come from a very unique perspective that my dad was really understanding in the sense that school is not everything, and that you have to have a good personality, you have to know how to work with other people, and having transferable skills. But how was your mom? I feel like how was your mom in that sense with great expectations?
My mom was super relaxed with that.
Yeah.
She didn't have the typical high expectations of us going to big colleges. It was more like, what do you guys want to do, and just do good in school. To summarize my family, she was a single mother taking care of 3 kids, and she was just trying to survive and just live day by day, taking care of all of us. So she didn't really have time to focus on our studies or put us in after school academics. So I remember in elementary school, I don't know, we were just living day by day. I barely remember my childhood because it was such a blur. Yeah, it was such a blur, and it was always fast moving. I went to a different elementary school almost every year.
Man, that's so tough.
It's
really
hard academically because every school is different and you're on different subjects all the time, and you're not really taking school seriously because you're going to go to another school, and I remember skipping school a lot in elementary school because I always felt I was behind. I always felt like I was behind at elementary school, and I think my mom didn't realize that. I think she's just so busy. I don't blame her for it.
Trying to survive.
She's just trying to survive
and feed her kids.
Yeah, but it's hard to catch up when you're constantly moving schools and changing subjects all the time. Yeah, because it's the social thing. It's like there's so much pressure on social that you're not really focusing on like the academics. I mean, I think I was still a smart kid to even just pass. Like I never got really bad grades or anything. Like I was just decent, and I was always a hard worker. In high school, we didn't move that much in high school. I only moved one time. So one school, my freshman year, doing okay, but I was also mad because I hated that school because it was filled with white people.
Yeah.
But I was being a stupid kid because
You're probably just not used to it.
I wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
I like grew up in a very minority based area, and I was used to that. And then I moved to more of a white school my freshman year of high school, and I always felt like I was judged for taking the bus to school or being Asian and being a very nerdy looking Asian person. And I remember people making fun of me like being Asian. But then
That's so crazy.
We moved back to our area, the minority based area, and I did really well. Like I was at that school for 3 years, so it was like the longest school I've ever been to for the longest period of time. It was 3 years. I graduated with like a 3.8.
That's
so I
really
did really good.
That's way better than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't really try that much. Like I was just like a hard worker.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I was really consistent with school and I had more of like a strong foundation of going to the same school or strong family foundation, like it would have been better. But I think for me and my family, it was more about survival.
Yeah.
And just getting day by day. And it's going to college and finding a job. And then how my mom was with grades.
Yeah.
For some reason, she never really checked my grades. Yeah,
Wait,
she wasn't.
Didn't you have to, like, when you got your report card that your mom had to sign off on it?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. So
Okay.
at the end of the day, where I barely went to school, and I ditched a lot. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. I ditched a lot my freshman year of high school.
Really?
A lot. Like,
And then where did you go? Where would you go?
I would go hang out with my best friends, and like we would
You just
go
hang
to a
out?
restaurant, or we would go. I don't know. We would go random places like the mall, like
Yeah,
stupid things.
my
I had
senior
like
year.
50 Saturday schools, like detention, whatever.
And you never go
And I
Saturday
moved
school?
school, so I didn't have to do it.
Nothing would happen?
Yeah. I was a really bad kid in my freshman year, but my mom had no idea because she's so busy. She had to drive like an hour away to work and deal with 3 kids, and you know she had her own boyfriend too. Like I don't know. It's hard to remember every little thing about your child, and I was such a responsible child at home that she would never second guess anything. She would never check my grades because the one time that she did, like it was always fine. Like every time I would show her, it would be fine. So of course she cares about our grades, but she wasn't super strict like your parents were, like looking at every little grade.
Oh yeah. Okay, moving on to the next little subcategory that I kind of wrote down. I just wanted to breeze through this quickly because it kind of cracks me up of how different Asians can be, but is like cultural superstitions. So I want to hear the cultural superstitions that you grew up with, because I can give you one example of mine and then we can kind of bounce off.
Okay.
But one of the things I always remember is just so funny to me. Actually, I have a couple of them, but the first thing that comes to mind is when I was growing up, my grandma, my Lola, that's what we say in Tagalog, my Lola and my mom would always tell me not to go to sleep with my hair wet. And that if I go to sleep with my hair wet, I'm going to wake up cross-eyed. Like literally the next day I'm going to wake up cross-eyed, get blind or whatever. Only for me to realize like many years later in my adulthood, it's just that they just don't want you to get sick.
Yeah.
You know, like how do you even get sick from that? But did you have a similar thing too where your mom would tell you that?
That's a good superstition because it does scare kids. Because if you tell kids you're going to get sick, they don't really care. They're like, okay, so what?
I don't have to go to school.
Yeah. I have 2 superstitions that I can think of at the top of my head. But my other one is a very extreme one. I don't know if any other Asians have dealt with this or has a similar story. I don't even know if this is like Laos or something, but my mom would always do it.
Okay.
And I don't, maybe it's like a Buddhist thing, but my mom's not a Buddhist. I mean, we practiced Buddhism for like 2 years when she was with her ex-husband, but
Okay.
a really, really weird superstition that she would do is every time we would move, she would give food to the spirits. So every time
No, like what kind of food are we talking here?
So this is the
like
thing.
a whole like a filet mignon, like a McDonald's.
Yeah, so we would always do In and Out.
Oh my god, that was so superstition.
This is like the most embarrassing thing ever because every time we move, I only remember 2 places that we did it at. I mean, I'm sure we did it at more places, but we did it at an apartment. Put the food right in front of the door, like in front of the porch.
Yeah.
And it's In and Out.
Yeah.
So imagine being the only Asian in that apartment complex filled with Mexicans, and you're walking by and you see like In and Out on the floor.
Yeah.
And then you see us coming in the door, walking past the In and Out, not picking it up, leaving the In and Out there for 5 days.
So you guys are
Like imagine the Mexicans like loca China.
no mames. Your mom puts it In and Out in front of the porch.
Yes.
You guys literally walk around it and then close the door behind you.
Yes, because we leave the food there for
I'm
5 days.
dying.
My mom's reasoning
it has
is
to be 5 days.
I mean, not 5 days. I just remember it was a long period of time, maybe a week, maybe
That's a
maybe
long
less.
time.
It's a long time. The last time I remember we did it when I was in high school, so I can't remember. It's like more than 10 years ago. My mom is very she has a sixth sense.
Yeah.
So she's
like a medium.
very
That's
paranoid,
cool.
and she
true.
wants to have her new place or her living situation be
Cleansed.
good vibes, cleansed, free from spirits not haunting her. So I think that's why she came up with this superstition. Or maybe this is an ongoing thing. I don't know why I never asked her if other people do this.
It's a cultural thing.
But her reasoning is that if you leave food on the floor, that asking permission and like giving them like something in
giving
return,
them like a
gift for exchange to live in that area, and like just just creating peace.
Yeah,
it's an offering. And so the reason why I always asked her too, I was like, why is it in and out? And then she's like, Michelle, the spirits, they're American. They want American food.
They have a race. They have a race. They have a nationality.
Yeah, I remember asking that. I was like, why does it have to be in and out?
I think the next topic that we want to talk about is like growing up and your transition from youth to adulthood. Basically talking about our high school transition to college to grad school, how just your relationship dynamics kind of changed with your parents throughout that time.
Okay.
And the expectation was always to go to school. I remember seeing a lot of my friends, I had a lot of like Division I athletic friends, so they were all like having full ride scholarships to school like our senior year. And of course everyone's looking at me like, oh, Denise, where are you going to go to school? And I'm over here like, oh, I'm going to community college. And I remember like just being I'm just being honest, like embarrassed, you know, because everyone in my school like knew my family's background. They knew I came from like pretty well-off parents in a good situation. So I think and I had good grades. So like they were kind of confused, like, why are you going to community college? It took me a long time to realize that was probably the best decision for me.
Yeah.
And it was a huge growing point for me to like realize, okay, life is not all in this gated community. I had no decision. Like my parents were just straight up like, oh, you're going to community college because your brother did it. And then my younger brother did the same thing. We all followed each other's footsteps because we all followed my kuya's older brother in Tagalog. So
it's definitely an Asian thing to
stay at home.
Do that to your kid, is to put them in community college to teach them
is that an Asian thing?
To teach them principle.
Yeah.
And of course, ultimately, save money.
Yeah, that's definitely what my parents were, going for.
Because to them, they don't care about social life.
Yeah,
that's not what you go to school for. You go there for academics, and you go there for your career.
Facts.
There's no such thing as a social life.
Yeah. Oh my God! Thank you for bringing that up because this is the perfect time. When I did transfer to four-year community or to four-year college, and I didn't even ask my parents, but my parents were like, "Oh, you're not like joining a sorority," straight up to my face. Like, don't even think about doing that. It's like the biggest waste of money, biggest waste of time. You're not doing it. Even though I was never going to do that. I'm not like a sorority person anyway.
Yeah. All the first generation Asian kids can relate to that you don't have to tell your parents every little thing.
Facts.
That's a white person thing.
I think so too. I mean,
that's why they always fight. Like, that's to shit on white people, but I think that's why white families always have issues and drama
because they be telling them too much.
It's not a friend situation.
Yeah.
They're your parents. You're not supposed to tell them every little thing.
I'm glad that you brought that up because that's kind of a good segue to this next thing too, because when you have Asian parents, you have to know how to have a good filter with them. You can't tell them they don't, but the funny thing is too, like, they don't want to know everything either. Like, they don't tell us everything.
They probably want to know, but you shouldn't.
But it's like the same thing where like, they're not going to tell us everything because they know they have to filter things out. So I think it's for the best interest of the relationship and for like your dynamic to not tell each other everything. Yeah. Not to restrict, but like to filter certain things. Yeah. Right. Like, what is like a good thing to tell your parents. It's very different from a relationship like with your partner, right? Like with your partner, you want to be as transparent as possible. Your parents, there's definitely a balance with that because my parents let me know from a very early age that they're not my friend. Like, they're a parent first, and like tough love is the only love. Yeah. I think that's like a huge difference too with
I think that's
Asian
a hot
families.
take because I hear a lot of people my age saying, when I have kids, I want them to feel comfortable with them telling me anything. Like, I want them to be my best friend.
They want to take drugs with each other.
That's the extreme view, right? That's the extreme view. But hot take again, I think that just opens up for more issues because your kid is going to feel like it's okay to do anything, and they're more relaxed, and they don't have the pressure of trying to prove you wrong in doing something in life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I totally understand. I totally get what you're saying. I think obviously a lot of successful parent to child relationships where they can be best friends, and the kid they know how to like teeter that line of like, I don't know, it just works.
Yeah.
No, we're not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying for us, we didn't grow up that way. We grew up with tough love, with parents being parents. Yeah. And if we have kids, we are not going to be friends. Like our kids, like I want them, of course, we want them to be comfortable. We want them to be safe. We want them to be smart. It's going to be, I don't think it'll be like tough. I don't think our love will be as tough as like maybe what our parents gave us, but it will be our own type, but it will definitely
It'll be
not
our own
friends.
type, but we are definitely going to be tough. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be best friends with your child. I think that it should be later in life.
Yeah, I agree.
I think when they're younger, kids are meant to be guided. To me, in our opinion, they're not meant to just roam free and do whatever they want. They have choices. Yeah. They don't have any choice living under our roof because they're learning. They're kids. Their brain isn't fully developed. So how are they supposed to know how to go through life without any guidance?
Well, I think bottom line with having a relationship with their parents, with Asian parents, I think more Asian kids need to realize that hopefully good parents are like doing their best. And I think it's our jobs as kids to be as understanding as you can. More likely than not, they grew up with like parents that were not, like they had no communication with them. So I think as you get older, you realize that your communication needs to get better and better with your parents, and that it's okay to filter things out from them because they probably filter things out with you. And that it's not going to be perfect, but you have to like really work on it with them. Especially I can say with my parents, at least, like our communication has gotten so much better, and the more transparent I can be with them and honest, like I can tell that they respect me more.
They're not going to make the best decision all the time. You have to know that they always have good intentions. Yeah. And if you always think of that, you are always going to find a way to make it work. And you have to be understanding. One
of my favorite topics, or a juicy topic that we should be talking about, but at least when I was growing up, a lot of Asians, like we were never allowed to date. Like I was not allowed to date. I mean, I'm pretty sure like my parents, they always make that joke of like, you can't date until you're married, like type of thing, or which basically is like impossible.
I would hear that all the time with all my Asian friends.
Yeah. Oh, so your friends too, like they couldn't date.
They couldn't date until they're married. Till they're in college. Yeah. Or they're whatever.
Or moved out.
Yeah, moved out.
That's like usually how it is.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, I grew up with like a predominantly white area with white people. All my friends had boyfriends 6th grade, 7th grade. I'm like, what? How do you guys even like? And I remember my parents would like hear this stuff. How does that even make sense? How do they even understand? Like the parents have to drive them to their dates, like, or I mean, like I think even this was like in high school too, before you can drive, and it's but they never like shoved it down my throat that I couldn't date. And I think my dad was really good about that because he knew that it wasn't really an issue for me, or like that he would never have to worry about it. I don't know.
I think the real question is, did you date though?
Well, duh. I mean, I think that's, I don't think parents want to know that. I don't think my parents can be oblivious to think that I never dated. Definitely my mom knows. Yeah. Because my mom caught me like so many times, like when I was growing up.
You were a nasty kid.
No, I was a good kid. I just like, got in trouble by like the school nuns or something because I walked to class with like a boy holding my hand or something like that. But if I'm holding a girl's hand, like there's no issue, right? Maybe that was a sign.
You went cross-eyed.
Sorry.
Did you sleep with your hair wet?
How about you though? What was like because your mom, you're interesting because I feel like your mom was pretty loose with you, or like relaxed, as long as she was strict in the sense that of being a disciplinary in terms of manners, which is great. Yeah. But like, how was she like with dating in high school, for example? Like, did you ever have a boyfriend in high school or a girlfriend? Sorry, I had to throw that out. Not everyone knows, right?
Obviously, I didn't have a girlfriend.
Okay.
I mean, not obviously.
We both came out late.
Yeah, we came out super late. I did have a boyfriend in high school, but for literally like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Typical high school romance.
Yeah, but my mom absolutely does not know about that. And
what grade were you in?
My senior year, junior year.
Okay, that's normal. Junior and senior year.
My mom was very, like you said, very loose with that stuff. But then again, you can't really be worried about your daughter when she's really busted. Imagine a tall, lengthy, awkward girl full of acne, really bad back posture, like baggy clothes, very insecure, didn't talk to any boys at all. So
that's a lot of girls though, babe. Like a lot of girls in high school, excuse me. Yeah, in high school.
Do they have boyfriends? I mean, I'm sure
they got
some
pregnant.
did.
A lot of them did.
If you saw me back then, you would not be worried about me. So I think my mom wasn't worried, but she would definitely give us a talk. She would definitely, my mom is really big on this. She was really big on us not dating in high school because afraid that I would get pregnant, or she was afraid that my brothers would get a girl pregnant.
Yeah.
So we definitely had to talk constantly. I think that was like her number one thing to talk about.
Oh,
like,
really?
Don't do something stupid. Don't go out there, have a boyfriend and get pregnant, because I'm not going to take care of your kid. You can't take care of your kid. You're going to ruin the whole family.
We should talk about your first real boyfriend or your first real relationship when you first told your mom how to impress Asian parents when it comes to dating. So there are like certain standards, I feel like, in Asian culture that you have to do to really impress your partner's parents. When you first met my parents, or when I first met your mom, I would say one of the unspoken things that you have to do, and this is, I hope if you're watching this as an Asian and you haven't met your partner's parents yet, the number one piece of advice I would give is that first impressions really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's with every culture, but especially with Asian judgmental parents. The day that you met my parents, like, they were going to judge everything about you.
Yeah.
Which is normal. I'm sure your mom judged me too, like every single thing about me. But you cannot come empty-handed. When you come to meet your partner's parents, like, you better come with something.
Yeah.
And usually fruits is the best thing to come with.
Yeah.
Like, maybe like a fruit basket.
Do something.
Something.
They just want, I
Don't
don't
just
know.
sit there.
Asians are weird.
If I were to bring any other culture or any other nationality home to my parents, like, I would have to for sure run them down everything.
Yeah.
But because I'm dating an Asian, I feel like I have less things to, like, I don't really have to prepare you as much. Even then, I still prepared you a pretty good amount. You prepared me for your mom too. So there are certain things that you can and can't say to your parents. If you can give like a piece of advice, what would, to people that are dating someone that with Asian parents and are meeting them for the first time?
I would say, based off how strict your parents are, if they are very strict or very judgmental, I would wait till you know that the person that you're dating is the one to introduce to your parents. Because I brought home my first ex-boyfriend to my mom, and she didn't really like him because he wasn't very friendly and didn't, because parents, you know what they care about is acting overly friendly, acts of service, helping around the house, feeling like your kid is being taken care of, basically. They want to know that your kid is being taken care of. Right. And for sure, my mom didn't think that of my boyfriend, but we were also very young. You know, we were 19 years old, so it's like we were still growing up. My mom just didn't see it, and she didn't like it, so there's no point to bring home an early stage relationship to see your mom go through the ups and downs of your family.
Nailed it.
You know, because Asian parents, they don't take you seriously when you're dating a quote unquote bum.
Bruh, I'm dead. Those are your words, not mine.
We were all bums at that age. Yeah, when you're 19, you're still figuring out your life. You don't have a real job yet. Asian parents don't understand. Yeah. You know, they just see you as a loser or someone that's good. That's it. Yeah. And if they're not respectable to your parents, then you shouldn't be dating them.
I think that's the beauty of us kind of finding each other later in our life too. Yeah. Because if I was 22 years old and came out to my parents, and even if it was you, like the right person, wrong timing. Yeah. This is just my parents in general. I don't know how your mom would be. But if we were dating at 22 years old, but I just don't think my parents would take me seriously, because they're like, okay, you need to focus on getting into law school. You need to focus on passing the bar. Like, there's so many steps before that, before I can fully commit myself to another person. Another piece of advice I would give too is be very careful of what you say about your partner in front of your parents. Like, even if you're venting to your parents about something, like, oh, I don't know, just like how you vent to your parents about, like, oh, I kind of get annoyed that my partner does this or this.
You shouldn't even be venting to your parents.
Yeah, period.
That's another example of, like, this is why you shouldn't be friends with your parents. Your parents, because they're just gonna be in your best interest. They're not gonna be biased no matter what. They're gonna be biased and like, you should dump that person. Yeah. They're not gonna understand.
Why are you dating this bum?
Because I would be the same way.
Yeah. In particular, Asian parents are just so judgmental in that sense that they only care about their kid. Yeah. Like you said, they're very biased in that sense. And I don't blame them. Like, I would be the same way too, right? Where you are a little bit biased because that's your kid. Yeah. And if you hear your child, someone that you love unconditionally, talk, say anything about their partner, like, the next time I see that partner, best believe I'm going to be judging them too. Yeah.
It's the same thing with friends too. It's one of your friends that come up to you and they're talking about how shitty their boyfriend is treating them, and you're going to feel, overprotective and be like, why is he treating you like that? that. Why are you even dealing with that? You should
Yeah.
break up with them. And if that's happening constantly over and over again, there's an extent to being understanding, and you're just gonna be like, no, you shouldn't stop. You should stop dating that person.
Even more with your
Yeah.
parents and at least your friends are a little bit more understanding.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of fun with this episode, especially it being kind of our first type of like table talk forum. Being comfortable and being in an intimate situation and just discussing topics that are really unique to us. These issues are also relatable to other immigrant families too.
Yeah.
So
Of all different races.
of all different races.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments if you're a different race and you relate to any of our stories.
Yeah.
They're
Or if you have different ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're superstitious dating wise, what's more relaxed, what's more strict. But for sure with Asians, it's about representation, it's about your career, it's about school.
Reputation, cultural expectations, and like family first,
Yeah.
and tough love,
And no dating.
and no dating. If you guys really like this type of medium or forum, let us know in the comments, and we definitely plan on doing something like this more in the future. I think it's much more relaxed and just adds more dynamic to kind of our conversations.
And our audio is lit.
Yeah, and our audio is lit. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.